We continue live right here. Get your calls in at 412-575-2600. First, a little shout out for the Pitt women's volleyball team. They wrapped up the ACC Volleyball Championship tonight with a win in Miami. So they're 26, or make that, they're 16-1 in conference, and they have their final regular season match coming up, and that'll be something they're calling Party at the Pete. They normally play their matches at the Fitzgerald Fieldhouse. They've been selling those out, and they're going to see how much they can do with the Party at the Pete. That's Wednesday as they conclude the season against Georgia Tech at Peterson Event Center. All right, let's get to the lines. They're humming tonight. Tim in the South Park area. Hey, Tim.
Hi, Bob. Caught most of your post-game show, but I'm not sure if any of your callers mentioned this. The Steelers played a 3-win team today. Not sure why after a bye week a couple of weeks ago, and they had, 10, 12 days off, Tomlin gave them 5 days off to prepare for this game, and they came out and showed that they weren't ready to play until the beginning of the fourth quarter. Any comments on your
First of all, I think it was more an opportunity for them to get their bodies rested. It is a long season. He took the opportunity to do that after an impressive win. Yeah, I think their slow starts, that could impact it. They've had a history of that, but they seem to get better as the game goes on. This was really bad, but also I give a lot of credit. You mentioned a 3-win team. That's not a 3-win defense. Their problems have been on offense strictly for the most part. Their defense is capable of doing that to a lot of people. And, I thought they dictated the game there.
They lost 6 games, though, Bob. They lost 6 games prior to today.
They did. They also have one of the most lengthy, if you look at their injury list, you'll see some of the biggest. Marquise Lee goes out before the season. That really affected their offense, but they've had Fournette missed 6 weeks. They've had a ton of other injuries to defensive players. I'm just saying, I think this team, when you look back at it also, I think, quite frankly, since you brought this up, Tim, I thought Jacksonville, they had no choice but to bring Bortles back after what happened last year, but I think they all knew then he wasn't that great of a quarterback. They had to give him an extension, and I think at the end of the day, that was the wrong choice, but they had to do it because they went to the game.
I just thought the Steelers were sluggish because they had days off.
But they won, didn't they? So
I understand.
That's the number one thing. All right, appreciate the call. Let's go to Mike in Oakland. Hey, Mike.
Hey, Bob. How you doing, my friend?
What's up?
Listen, so I know you're going to kill me on Bell thing, but I just have to bring this up, okay? And I don't know if you'd agree, but, Connor was awful today. I mean, he could have literally cost us the game, kind of like he did in Cleveland, with not catching that touchdown pass late. And he dropped another pass. Right. He didn't run well. And I've read reports that the Steelers are, really tried to negotiate to bring him back. It didn't work, and they're going to transition him. You wonder, since the Steelers didn't pay him anything this year, maybe they might consider matching Le'Veon's terms for a contract after maybe this game kind of maybe opened the Steelers' eyes a little bit on maybe Connor isn't the go-all. What do you think about that?
Nope. I'm shaking my head the whole time. I'm shaking it, Mike, because, first of all, I went back and just looked at Le'Veon Bell had 9 drops last year. Drops were part of the game. Those were critical. Don't get me wrong. There was a 4th and 5. Connor made the drop. He should have made that play. And then the one that was a touchdown, which preceded the eventual touchdown, but it could have cost them the game. You're right. In no way are they going to totally sour on James Conner. Plus, more importantly, to your point, they're done with Le'Veon Bell. If they do a transition tag, it will be merely to try to get some more compensation if they can out of this, I think. They'll have a right to match an offer. They really don't have any intention. They've tried for 2 years to get a long-term extension with him. He's chosen not to engage them in that. He wants more than they're willing.
You're absolutely right. No, it was just a thought. And the last thing I want to mention, I have to tell you, I mean, I think that I read the last time they came back from 16 points down was 20 years ago or something. I mean, that was a game for the ages.
It really was.
I really thought that this was going to be a huge, huge loss. You'd be, miserable all week regarding how they came out flat. But, I mean, this might be their year. I'll be honest. I mean, I think they could really beat New England. Kansas City's the only team with their high-powered offense, but the defense has settled in so well. It was just an amazing comeback, and that's all I had to say.
All right, man.
You do a great job, man.
Thank you,
Bob.
Mike. I appreciate it. And I'll tell you what game I'm looking forward to is the Saints game. They won again today. They blew out Philadelphia 48-7. They're 9-1. The Steelers and the Saints will be a great matchup. We did a preseason game down there a couple of years ago, and I love that stadium, and they put a lot of renovations into it, but it's loud. New Orleans is playing well on that surface indoors. The Steelers are going to be tested that day, and I think it'll be fun to see. Let's go to line 3. That's Mike in Charleroi. What's up, Mike?
Hey, Bob, thank you for taking my call.
Anytime.
I have comment on 2 games. The Steelers call at the end of the game was the correct call, and I'm not sure if you watched the West Virginia game or not, but at the end of the game, the last play of the game, the Oklahoma State defender practically tore off the shirt of the West Virginia player. No call. If it was tearaway jerseys, he had a bunch of cloth in his hand.
No, I didn't see that game because
Sean McDonough says, well, at the end of the game, you can't make that call. If it's a penalty, you got to make the call.
No, I agree. I didn't see West Virginia. I was doing 4 high school games on a long day over at Heinz Field, which was fun to do. But to your point about the final play, and Chris and I disagreed on this afterwards, Chris didn't think it should have been called. I thought for sure it should have been called. It disrupted Ryan Switzer's route. Roethlisberger threw it to a spot where he thought he'd be, and the only reason he couldn't get there is because the defender had his helmet, and it was a face mask penalty. So you have to call that when it affects the game as that did. So bottom line, that was a right call. Let's go out to Pete in Squirrel Hill. What's up, Pete?
Hey, Bob, how are you today?
Good, thanks for calling.
Hey, Bob, quick observation. When the game ended today, Ben Roethlisberger being interviewed by the CBS reporter, and Ben commented on the trash talking by the Jaguars. Number 20 and number 50, he singled out. What does that say about the coaching staff down there and the culture that a team is 3-6, lost 5 in a row, going nowhere, playing a team that is going to the playoffs with the Steelers' history, and they're talking trash? The culture is a joke down here, Bob. They'll never win anything. Last year was a fluke. What do you think about that?
I think there are a lot of trash talkers in that league. And what I think is Jalen Ramsey is going to say whatever Jalen Ramsey says. He looks to engage people in trash talking. That, to me, his athletic ability is off the charts. And what he did today on that interception to Antonio Brown, which was officially ruled on the field as an incompletion, then overturned, and correctly so, he went off his original guy to make that play. It was a tremendous athletic play, and not many people can do it. Now, he doesn't need to open his mouth the way he does. I know some people like it because they say, hey, he's being honest. He's telling, okay. He's also ripping apart really good players. Now, he changed his tune a little bit this week when talking about Roethlisberger. He called him decent at best in the offseason. He ripped apart some of the better quarterbacks in the game. There's no reason to do that. All you do is hurt your team. It leads to internal problems, and that's what they had. And if you don't have a locker room big enough, capable of, and mature enough to handle it, you're going to end up with problems. And I think that's been part of their problem down there. Will in the West Side. What's up, Will? How are you?
Hey, what's up, Bob? So, I'm not originally from this area. I'm mostly from the West Philadelphia side, so I don't have a big dog in the race here. But, today I was on the playground.
All right. Well, I don't know what happened there, but you were on the playground. We're going to take a break as I take a recess. We'll be back right after this on Pittsburgh CW.